I didn't join the dots either. Too busy trying to get her through the Merchant of Venice. It's a play.
I know what the Merchant of Venice is.
GCSE text.
Came as no surprise to me, all this. Brought his car in once. Don't know which was oilier, him or the engine.
Well, Joe.
We pulled the wool over Dee Dee's eyes. They were getting married.
Oh, it's women for you, isn't it? What? It is. They get dazzled, see what they want to see.
You've been listening to the Enlightenment Hour with Kevin Webster.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
Hello and welcome to episode 320 of The Talk of the Street, an unofficial Coronation Street catcher podcast that continues to be impressed with Joel's scream therapy and came close to giving it a go myself this week. I'm Gavin. Ah! That's better.
And I'm done with this auction, baby.
Oh, straight into it. Auction talk.
Yes. Yes, this rare book, vinyl, art and electronics auction went live yesterday morning. I have posted a link on our Facebook page because we had some people inquiring and wanting to see my work.
How can people get involved in this auction, Helen?
They can go to our Facebook page, The Talk of the Street, and they will find a link there that I posted earlier this afternoon.
Is it at Corrie Podcast on Facebook? Is that how it's... I think it might be. Yes. Facebook.com/Corrie Podcast.
Yes. And you can click away and look at all of my beautiful pictures and, you know, if you are so inclined, bid, because we do ship internationally. And that includes Canada.
If anyone was in any doubt,
Right.
Canada counts.
Yeah. It's just
Canada better count. They're the only people listening to this shit.
Well, that's why I said, and yes, Canada counts, because most of our listeners are Canadian, because they are the very best people in the world.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm already deep into the next one, but fortunately, it's an auction that I'm working with some of my coworkers together on, so that makes it a little lighter, a little less stressful when it's not just your work being put in and success being judged. So, and it's already fun because I already got to catalog what I think is a really cool guitar.
We need to talk offline about this, about what a really cool guitar is. A really cool guitar is not one that would not look out of place by a musician doing the Monster Mash.
It's a BC Rich Warlock Platinum Series guitar, which I paired very nicely with a Gorilla amp. Is the Gorilla amp cool, my darling?
I know nothing about them.
Oh, okay. So I've just completely lost you on both sides.
Yeah, it's very angular, the BC Rich.
Yeah. And it's spiky.
But see, you look at the guitars behind you.
Yes.
They're lovely guitars.
They are lovely guitars. They are very lovely guitars. I'm not disparaging your beautiful guitars by saying that. I just find the BC Rich cool because it's got a cool shape. It's got a very rock and roll shape, and it's blue. You don't have a blue guitar.
What's that LTD one?
I thought that was purple.
No, it's blue.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind then. Oh, that's right. That's the one that Stelly borrows all the time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is blue. Never mind. Anyway,
What are we doing now?
how are you? How was your birthday?
My birthday was lovely, thank you. We went to the British restaurant in Gas City, Indiana.
Pains.
What a beautiful name for a city that is. And ironically enough, I had gas after we went to the restaurant. I had bangers and mash, which was a little too fancy. The fish and chips is much better.
Yeah. And you had 2 iron brews.
2 iron brews, as always.
And we had a lovely chat with our waiter who is from Manchester, would you believe?
He sounded like Bobby.
Bobby!
He
Yes.
sounded like Bobby.
He didn't look like Bobby though.
No.
He looked like a young Stephen Fry. A young thin Stephen Fry.
Well, Stephen Fry was quite thin when he was at university.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then we saw the world's largest ball of paint, the world's largest steer, i.e. bull, and the world's largest indoor sycamore stump. So that takes us to, I think, 14 or 15
Yes.
of the world's largest
Yes.
things.
A steer is a bull who no longer has balls.
Every day is a school day.
Every day is a school day.
Shall we preamble, my dear?
Y'all's please.
Give us some of that castrated Corrie news.
Lucy Fallon has revealed that baby number 2 won't mean leaving the street, and she'll be back in Bethany's shoes in no time after the baby is born. In
Oh,
another,
she's pregnant again?
didn't we talk about this on Corrie News a couple weeks ago? She's about halfway there,
If we did, then
living on a prayer.
oops, I've forgotten. And if we didn't, then I had no idea she was pregnant.
She is pregnant with baby number 2. She's about halfway through, and has been sharing her baby bump on the Instagram, and has also said on the Instagram that she will be back to work once she pops this one out. Her words, not mine.
I'm not sure a lot of people will miss Bethany if she does take some time off at the moment. She's kind of insufferable, which is no reflection on the actor, obviously.
No, Lucy is a delight. Corrie has backtracked on the Martin Platt storyline as actor Sean Wilson has stepped away from what was to be Gail's leaving storyline. Instead, John Thompson will be back as Jesse Chadwick. Reports are very shady on why Sean Wilson stepped away. Some people have said that he was given the axe by the show. Some people have said that he left voluntarily. Apparently, a lot of scenes were shot already. He'd already been back. They've already wasted film on this storyline that they're never going to do now. And the show doesn't like to waste money, so it's a puzzle.
So I wrote at length about this in the blog last week, because this was the news that was breaking just as we were starting to record, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's, first of all, the tabloid nature of the headlines means it's kind of difficult to figure out exactly what's going on. But it's also such a shame for Helen Worth, who, let's remember, is kind of supposedly the focus of this whole thing.
Absolutely.
And she was reportedly very happy about Martin's return and thought this was giving her character a good send-off.
Yes.
I had hoped that maybe it was just one of those things where when they saw it being acted out as compared to it being on paper, that it didn't work, or
Right.
there was something about it that just wasn't what they expected it to be. But yeah, it's a bit of a mystery, and I'm not sure that this replacement is of the same magnitude. But
Right. But she doesn't have any more living husbands.
Right.
Yeah. And finally, sad news.
Oh no.
As Luana Santos, aka our Sabrina, is exiting the show and has apparently already filmed her last scenes. This better not mean that Gav is leaving as well, or I riot.
I've got a horrible feeling that that's exactly what it means. I think these characters have served their purpose, which is ridiculous.
And stupid, because they're good characters. They're characters people like.
They're good characters, and they fit really seamlessly into the show. And
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what the thinking behind that is,
Yeah, it's dumb.
but
It's dumb.
yeah, I mean, you don't know what else is going on in terms of offers and what have you. But
Right.
if we were given the creative reins of the show, I think Sabrina and Gav would be
In every storyline.
Well, maybe not so much as that, but they certainly wouldn't be anywhere near the top of the list of characters that we would let go.
Right.
Kirk.
Brr, Craig. And that's Corrie News.
That's Corrie News. Well, as ever, our journey through this podcast continues now in calmer waters as we explore the hidden depths of our feedback section that I like to call Everyone's a Critic. Redday on the YouTube wrote the psychopath test that we talked about last week. Remember the John Ronson book?
Yes.
That is the same book that Paige Sandu read to prepare for playing Mina Jutla in Emmerdale, and she was fantastic. This seems to be the go-to now for soap stars who are
Playing
perhaps
psychopaths.
a little on the psychopathic spectrum, of which this prompted me to have a look at the psychopath test to see exactly what it's made up of. And it's essentially a checklist of 20 items that if you're definitely, or if a character is definitely this, you'd give it 2 points. If it's maybe, you'd give it 1 point. And if it's not, then you wouldn't give it any points. So out of a possible 40, if you're 30... that's enough to be labelled a psychopath in the United States, and a mere 25 is enough in the United Kingdom. The checklist includes glibness or superficial charm. I'm thinking about how this worked for most of the characters in Coronation Street, not just us. Grandiose sense of self-worth, a need for stimulation, proneness to boredom, pathological lying.
Okay, phew.
Oh, hello, right.
Because I was like, eventually we'll get to one that doesn't describe me.
Conning and manipulative,
That's not me.
a lack of remorse or guilt,
That's not me.
shallow affect,
No.
callous lack of empathy,
No.
parasitic lifestyle.
No.
You just had to think about that one, so we'll give it 1 point.
No.
Poor behavioural controls,
No.
promiscuous sexual behaviour,
Well, definitely not.
early behaviour problems,
No.
lack of realistic long-term goals,
No.
impulsiveness,
Sometimes.
irresponsibility,
Sometimes.
failure to accept responsibility for own actions,
No.
many short-term marital relationships. Define many.
It defines short term.
There we go. Arguing with the checklist. No. Juvenile delinquency.
Nope.
Revocation of conditional release, which hopefully not.
No.
And criminal versatility. So
No.
out of those 20 things,
I've got like what, a 5?
well, times 2.
Okay, so a 10?
It's funny though, thinking about the Corrie characters and how they rank on this.
Yeah.
Most of the major characters on the show are probably borderline psychopaths.
Yes.
Based on this list.
Right.
I thought it was fun though.
How did you score?
Let's see. Glibness, superficial charm. I see I can be superficially charming.
Yes, that is you.
Grandiose sense of self-worth.
No. You don't give yourself enough credit. That's the problem.
See, I can't hear enough of that. I'm prone to boredom.
Yes.
I'm not a pathological liar.
No.
I'm not manipulative.
No.
I don't have a lack of remorse.
No.
I can be quite shallow, I guess.
No. You're not. Well, okay, yes.
Don't have a lack of empathy. I'm not a parasite. I don't have poor behaviour controls. Don't have promiscuous sexual behaviour.
You better not.
Early behaviour problems, no. Lack of realistic long-term goals. Doesn't that everybody?
No, you have realistic long-term goals.
Impulsiveness, I'm the opposite of impulsive.
Yeah, seriously.
Irresponsibility, failure to accept responsibility for own actions.
No, that's not you.
Many short-term marital relationships, juvenile delinquency, revocation. I think I'm scoring pretty low here.
Yeah. I think you're slightly lower than I am.
Blink twice. Anyway, let's move on before we go through that list for a third time. Noel writes, hello again from the Noel Burrow. There's a burrow!
So he's a hobbit?
I like the idea of Noel having a burrow. Are things finally coming to a head on Confrontation Street? So many cats in so many bags. Joel had better stock up on the kitty litter because when those cats get out, there's going to be one hell of a mess, which we kind of Started to see this week.
That's true.
Meanwhile, just when we thought Leanne was out, they pull her back in. Was there a glint in Shona's eye? She told David that he was a little pervert. I can only hope that it's kept behind closed doors. This week's I'm Not Crying, You're Crying moment has to be Swain looking at a picture of a younger, more innocent Betsy. That was enough to break any parent's heart. Finally, this week's Witless Witticism Award goes to Billy's quip, as long as you're not coming after me dog collar. Helen, your bubbly, melodic voice is a pure joy to listen to.
Aww.
So F that be. Yours in perpetuity, He Who Waits. Thank you, Noel. Noel wrote in just a little too late last week to be included in last week's mailbag.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Feedback is always welcome. Send us your thoughts and I will probably read them out. Get us at thetalkofthestreet@gmail.com or our DMs are open at Corrie Podcast. Please note that we reserve the right to edit feedback, but only in the interests of brevity. And now
Yes.
we'll podcast for coffee. Thanks to John for our coffees this week.
Thank you, John.
John writes, happy birthday, Gav.
Aw.
Enjoy a coffee on me and make sure it's not an empty cup. Beautifully done, John. Beautifully done. What are you drinking?
Cranberry juice.
I have my peachy tea.
Yes, your peace tea.
Which, again, tastes like a big old hairy peach nut in the mouth. The Talk of the Street is and will always be free on your podcast provider and on the YouTubes. But if you think our show is worth anything more than the time it takes to listen to it, and if you want to show your appreciation like John did, thanks again, John.
Thank you, John.
You can buy us next week's coffee by going to ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/The Talk of the Street. You can also sign up to be a friend of the podcast through the same link, where for as little as $2 a month, you can get a mention in the closing credits of each and every episode. And we now have a Patreon site where you can show us some love. Sign up to be a friend of the podcast there at patreon.com/The Talk of the Street. But remember, you can always support the podcast for free. Get us in front of new listeners by liking, subscribing, rating and reviewing wherever you get your podcasts. Just even listening to the podcast is payment enough.
Yes. Because we know.
I'm keeping an eye on these numbers. Shall we dive in, my dear?
Yes, please.
Okay, let's start this week with An Innocent Man.
You don't like Billy Joel.
I hate Billy Joel.
Oh, I thought you were going to play An Innocent Man.
No.
Swain.
We start off immediately with Swain.
Woohoo!
Joel's on the phone to her, and she's asking about his day on September the 7th when he was a duty solicitor, and he can't quite remember what he was up to, so he has to rely on Swain telling him that he was representing one racist Kelly. Meanwhile, Dee Dee is voggling the jewellers where Joel claimed to have got the charm bracelet for Maeve. She asks Joel what Swain wanted, and he reveals that she was asking why he didn't reveal that he had previously represented racist Kelly, which sounds like a waste of time as far as he's concerned. But for dead end, Dee Dee agrees and leaves saying that she has a busy day. But at work, she continues her investigations and discovers the only thing that costs 300 quid at that jeweller's is a necklace that looks very much like the one that Roy drew that belonged to racist Kelly.
Correct.
WTA fuck, she says.
Yes, exactly like that in a Scottish accent.
Later, she's waiting in Nina's Rolls to speak with Roy when Swain comes in. Swain apologises for the call early, but wonders what Joel told her about their interview yesterday. Dee Dee says it was just about a client, which Swain finds very interesting.
Also, Swain knows nothing about this necklace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This kind of confused me through this. I think I maybe missed a bit where it was passed on to Joel to pass it on to
Yes.
the cops.
Right.
I don't remember that happening. So Swain leaves and in comes, well, who's this clean-shaven man cutting a fine dash?
Yes, he is.
Oh, thank God. Thank God Roy shaved. Can you
Woohoo!
imagine how patchy and...
He looked like he's taken a shower as well and put on clean clothes.
Oh, that's a joy to behold. Dee Dee shows him the necklace on her phone and he confirms that that was the one that he saw around racist Kelly's neck. So Dee Dee rushes off to the hospital to see racist Kelly, and after some small talk, she starts quizzing her on Joel, how he represented her, and about the necklace. Racist Kelly doesn't want to think about any of this. She's focusing on getting to Belfast. WT actual fuck, says Dee Dee again.
Yes.
She nips back to the law office. Joel comes in looking for some lunch, and Dee Dee explains how she went to see Racist Kelly, and he pretends that he hasn't shot himself, but he really has.
Yes, he has.
Dee Dee says Racist Kelly is planning to move to Belfast, just like that place that Joel was planning on going to and had bought airline tickets and everything.
Right, yes. And then his plans were cancelled.
Just coincidence, though, surely.
Just coincidence.
He sticks to the failed work trip excuse and drags Dee Dee off for a hot pot. In the pub, she reveals that she spoke to Swain and how she was interested in what he told her about yesterday, and Joel shits himself once more and claims he has no idea where Swain is going with any of this. Dee Dee brings up the necklace, and if anything happened with the picture that Joel handed in, he says he didn't think so, that he never heard back from them. It's all over and done with. He says this is loose ends. Loose ends, says Dee Dee, enigmatically.
Yes.
Joe goes back to work, hurrying off just to get out of that conversation with Dee Dee. And he sits in his car and he screams for a bit and then speeds off, but Dee Dee's right behind him. Perhaps even close enough to have heard him when he was screaming.
Yes.
And then
That's what I thought.
And then she jumps in a parked Mini that's just sitting around and follows him back to the hospital, where she watches him with Racist Kelly and Frankie, and he's all doe-eyed as he looks at the kid.
Yes.
Dee Dee then flashes back through all the evidence about the necklace, Racist Kelly, her disappearance, about the mystery boyfriend, Joe's sudden hefty workload, the flat, and now Frankie.
And how he said cufflinks the first time, and then a necklace for the baby, for Maeve.
He said cufflinks, and then he said charm bracelet.
Yes, for Maeve.
And then Joel is there, standing behind her, wondering why she's there. And she wonders the same thing. He says he had some time between meetings. She says that she left something behind. He leaves and she dodges his kiss. Dee Dee goes back to speak to Racist Kelly. Tell me about Joel and this necklace that he's lied about twice. A necklace for Racist Kelly, perhaps. And Racist Kelly admits it. Says that they had a fling before Dee Dee was on the scene. And Dee Dee wants to know if Frankie is Joel's. And she confirms as much, as we see Joel outside the room listening to all this, making noises.
Yeah. Very, very creepy. Why did that nurse not shut that door all the way?
Doors in hospitals are famously unreliable when it comes to closing, aren't they?
All the way. Mm-hmm. Dee Dee specifically says, would you mind giving us some privacy for a minute? And then the nurse doesn't shut the door all the way. What?
Because she knows there's some juicy gossip coming out.
Right, yeah. And there's nobody there to say, sir, what are you doing lurking outside this door in a very creepy fashion?
Apparently not.
Apparently not.
Racist Kelly explains how much of a monster Joel is and what she went through when Dee Dee realises that Joel is the reason that Racist Kelly went missing, and probably the reason that she had an early pregnancy. She nearly throws up. Racist Kelly thinks surely not, but then she remembers the soup, and then she nearly throws up, and we see that Joel is no longer listening. Instead, he's at the cop shop, and it's quite clever the way that they do this, because the scene opens with Kit, and then Kit's saying, I understand how difficult this is to talk about.
Yes,
and when the camera
and
pans,
you think it's going to be Racist Kelly, but it's not.
No, it's Joel that's sitting there.
Who's an asshole.
And he's given Kit his version of events that paint him as a bit of a victim here, being blackmailed by the jilted teenage mum. He didn't tell the cops before because he didn't want Dee Dee to find out. Meanwhile, Racist Kelly's in the same cop shop, but she's telling her story to Swain, and Dee Dee's there for company. Swain is very sympathetic, noting that Racist Kelly has been groomed, but the two parties kind of leave at the same time when they bump into each other, and as Joel is arrested, there's a fight in the waiting room, as Joel shouts that Racist Kelly took abortion pills deliberately to get rid of the kid, and was guilty of extorting him, and Racist Kelly shouts how Joel's a liar. And eventually it's all broken up, and Dee Dee finally gets home, and Ed is there to comfort her as she finally, today, breaks down.
Yes. Oofed.
Wasn't Monday's Coronation Street amazing?
It was very good. Yes. It feels to me that not enough is made out of the fact that she's just a teenager. She's just a kid herself, and that he was in a power he was in a position of power over her. So it's kind of frustrating that they make so much of this whole that it seems like it kind of works, the whole, oh, well, she seduced me bullshit.
Yeah.
Because it's obviously bullshit.
Yeah, at no point does anyone shudder as they hear this story.
Right, yeah.
And you think they would all go, oof,
and nobody,
Jesus Christ, this is
nobody
awful.
says, well, Swain does say later, about the difference, the power dynamics here. But you would feel, it feels like that should be punishable just on its own.
It should certainly put Joel in a very difficult situation. And I don't feel like he is in that difficult a situation. Well, he is on Monday, but as we get on to Wednesday.
It feels like there should be something they could charge him with. Abuse of power or something.
Yeah, I don't know that there is.
But there should be.
If she was underage, then certainly, but she was 18, so... But yeah, the whole dynamic of the relationship is very, very off.
And she wasn't 18 when when he first started using her for sex, I don't think. It was before she turned 18. Because wasn't the necklace kind of an 18th birthday present or something?
Yeah, 16's age of consent in the UK, though.
So gross.
And here, as we've discovered.
Depending upon the state. Some places it's even lower.
Yeah.
Which is gross.
Let's not examine that too closely again. So Wednesday, Joel is interrogated by a very suspicious D.S. Swain. She doesn't believe a word he says, but he's calm under pressure, and there's a plausibility, I guess, to his story that racist Kelly deliberately took medicine to kill their baby. Swain thinks bank statements and internet history should reveal that, unless you paid cash, says Joel. So he's kind of got all the eventualities covered off, or so he thinks.
Yeah, he says, unless she paid cash, and Swain rightly says, online? Mm-hmm. Because you can't pay cash online.
His complaint here is that racist Kelly deliberately tried to kill their baby through a illegal homemade abortion by taking pills that would bring on labour
while being locked in an apartment,
and this is a
by
bit
herself
that I think everyone's kind of skipping over as well, that
yes.
She was locked in an apartment.
She was locked in the apartment, and the only person who had the keys was Joel.
And there's proof of this because Max had to call the fire I was going to say fire engine.
The fire
He
department.
had to call the fire brigade to come and kick the door in.
Right.
So
yeah,
there's proof that she was locked in the flat.
right. Yeah, exactly.
So how did that happen then?
Why is nobody talking about this? It's so frustrating. And why is Dee Dee not remembering that mysterious package that showed up at her place?
Oh, yeah.
Which was these pills.
Dee Dee's done so well up to now. There has to be one thing that she's dropped the ball on, and I guess by doing that she allows a lot of this drama to happen. Mm-hmm. Swain tries to press Joel's buttons, wonders if there was any other teenage girls unlucky enough to end up in his orbit, but doesn't get very far. Mm-hmm. Yes, other girls like your daughter. She seems to have skimmed over this bit, that Joel was accused of bruising Betsy. And
right. I think she's trying to protect her daughter by keeping her daughter out of this.
Maybe. I'd like to see just a hint of that, though.
Yeah.
Charge me or let me go, says Joel. You've got nothing on me. Meanwhile, at the hospital, racist Kelly is sure she's going to get the blame for the attempted illegal abortion. Dee Dee insists that the truth will out. At the cafe later, Max is still Mr. Million questions about Joel and racist Kelly's living arrangements, because it sounded like she's planning on moving back into his flat, which was totally bizarre.
Yes. But she has no other place to go.
And doesn't fancy topping and tailing with Max at number 8. One can sympathise with that.
Yes. His feet must be very stinky.
So she's planning on moving. Oh no. She gets a call to let her know that Joel's been released without charge, and later, inexplicably, Dee Dee agrees to meet Joel at their flat and listens to him beg for her to take him back. He's a chancer, I guess. I mean, God loves a trier, right?
Ugh. So gross.
It's a brass neck
Yeah.
to go, well, I might as well try.
Right.
Pretend that I'm still a good guy. Maybe she
Right.
will fall for it. She's fallen for it all these other times.
Right. Yeah. Maybe she'll also believe that, I'm the victim here.
He's relieved it's all out in the open. She thinks because of her chastity and his needs that exploiting a young girl was how he managed to work round about that, and she's supposed to feel sorry for him. He maintains that Racist Kelly's lying. In that case, says, Dee Dee, give me your phones. He hands them over and she goes off for a rummage on them. And when she comes back, she's black-bagged his stuff. She hasn't found anything on his phones because she didn't expect to. She knew that he would be one
Right.
step ahead. And she accuses him of using a burner phone, calls him a liar and tells him to fuck off. And he's like, what am I, Saul Goodman? Very nice. Meanwhile, Roy has visited Racist Kelly in hospital and advises that she may be better staying locally where she has some support from her friends.
Yes.
Joel heads back to the cop shop and now accuses Dee Dee and Racist Kelly of working in cahoots to frame him.
For what? For knocking up Racist Kelly? That's easily proven that he did it. What is he accusing them of being in cahoots for? Is he trying to say that all of this story is false?
No, I don't
when
think
he's
so.
already confessed?
No, I think he's saying that he's getting framed by them for the, I guess, Racist Kelly's disappearance and early labour.
It doesn't make any sense.
Do you know what?
And this is why we don't get to hear this.
If I can be perfectly honest with you, I think lots of this don't quite add up.
Yeah.
And I got confused quite a few times going through it.
Yes.
Because you're right, I don't know why.
And
I
that's
don't know
why we don't hear
he
it.
thinks there could be a team of people working against him.
Right.
When
Yeah.
he's the one who's been shagging a
Right.
18-year-old and got her knocked up,
Right. An 18-year-old that he was in a position of power over.
who went missing, had head injuries,
And who he
etc.
and who he essentially paid for sex,
Right.
which is illegal, isn't it? If she's not like a certified sex worker.
I don't know what the rules are on that sort of thing anymore. Not that I was very au fait with him at the best of times.
What are you saying,
Or so I
Gav?
say, let's not do that psychopath test again. Swain rolls her eyes and takes him to the interview room back at the hospital with Dee Dee and Racist Kelly, and she has agreed now to stay in town. Dee Dee explains about Joel's latest claims to the cops, but she has a card up her own sleeve.
Yeah.
When she had Joel's phones, she installed, remember Lizzie's slut tracker?
Yeah.
That's been installed on both Joel's phones. He never leaves, he never goes to the bathroom without them, apparently.
Right.
So they can keep track on his every move. And Racist Kelly is grateful because she's been really worried about him just turning up and stuff.
Right.
So on Friday, at the hospital, Racist Kelly and Dee Dee have been tracking Joel, who has just gone to work, and Racist Kelly's pissed off that he's behaving like nothing's happened. He's just gone to work now. So Dee Dee says, we'll see about this, and reports Joel to some lawyer, ombudsman person or something, which should fuck up Joel's employment chances getting
Yes.
proper. Racist Kelly, though, is kind of scared by this and warns Dee Dee not to push things too far. There's going to be consequences, she reckons, but Dee Dee says she's just getting started. Mm-hmm. At the lawyer's office later, she meets up with Emily and brings her up to speed with events, and Emily is shocked and knew that Joel was a wrong un, but didn't realise exactly how wrong. Dee Dee tells Emily how worried she is about Joel doing something rash, which may include Maeve's safety.
Right. And that was a really good scene because Emily starts to say, why would he hurt Maeve? Maeve is his own. And then the ball drops and she gets this look of just horror on her face, which she realizes, yeah, he already tried to murder one of his children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Later, Dee Dee gets an alert that Joel is outside the office, so she's prepared when he comes up and he just wanders in, Turns out that he's been suspended from work and
Yay!
Emily has stopped him from seeing Maeve.
Yay!
Joel says that when he walks free, Dee Dee's going to regret what she's done. And Dee Dee keeps a brave face through all this and tells him to be careful that the door doesn't hit his arse on the way out.
Yes.
But privately, after he's gone, she's clearly shaken. And that's as far as we get with that part of the story
Yes.
this week.
It was frustrating, but it was also very good.
I thought it was great.
There's a lot that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, there's bits and pieces of this that...
But it kind of feels like that's intent. Are we not going to talk about the whole Bethany aspect? Or are we going to talk?
We'll talk about that next.
Okay. There's things that don't add up, but I have a feeling that they will add up later. You know, I think there's a reason why we are not hearing what Joel is claiming now.
Swain has not fallen for him one little bit.
No. And it seems like Kit hasn't either, although I'm still not quite sure.
He's got different reasons for this, I think.
Yeah.
It suits him personally.
Well, technically it doesn't suit him because it means that he framed the wrong man.
Well, yeah, but I think if they have the right man now, then that kind of suits them because maybe the questions that are getting asked in that storyline that we haven't talked about yet will stop getting asked. But yeah, there are parts of this where we're not sure why they're not focusing on what we reckon are really important parts of the story.
Yes.
They're getting locked in the flat. The fact that Racist Kelly had her head bashed in.
Right, the package.
All that sort of stuff. And we're focusing on the potentially illegal abortion part of it, which feels very much like the cherry on top kind of thing. There was all this stuff going on before we even got to that point.
Right,
That was enough to send Joel to prison for quite some time.
Yes.
We also have the other people's testimony. But I'm wondering if... Do the police know at this point that Joel's the one that's in the frame for Racist Kelly's disappearance? Has anybody asked her about this?
Well...
Because she's blaming Nathan.
Yeah, she blamed Nathan. And now I'm assuming that they know that it was Joel all along. The way people are talking about it, like, who knew it was Joel all along? Sort of thing. So,
has she recanted any of this, though? I don't know that she has.
Well, she has a little bit because she has said that it was Joel who did these things to her.
To Swain.
Yeah. But let's not forget that's not the only reason why Nathan's in prison again. Let's not forget those USB things.
Yeah, they've added a little spice to this to make it okay that he's in prison at the moment.
Right, yeah.
If he is. And if he does get sent down or sent back to prison, it's okay because he had the USB stuff.
Right.
Which feels like a bit of a safety net sort of thing. As if anybody would care that Nathan was in prison.
No.
No, this was really good. Dee Dee getting her act together and putting the pieces of the puzzle together, I thought was really well done. And I really liked the little montage of things that has happened that were red flags that she kind of either
just kind of
skipped
skimmed
over
over
and seen them all together. It's like, oh my God, there was plenty of examples.
plenty of red flags planted along the path.
And he continues to do such a good job, Callum Lill, of portraying this monster. The screaming in the car I thought was really effective.
Yeah, because I was like, wait a second. It wasn't that bad, the conversation with Dee Dee.
Oh, it was, wasn't it?
Well, it was, but
because it let him know that she knows. She's just playing with him.
Yeah.
I thought
But
I thought that was great.
It felt like maybe he could be calmer. But then again, let's not forget Stephen and his penchant for screaming and throwing recycling bins around every time he murdered someone.
Well, exactly. The recycling of Weatherfield was left unabused this week, thankfully.
Yes.
But it was the whole two-facedness of him when he's sitting in the pub talking to her and he's pretending that things are fine and he's kind of light-hearted, but as soon as he gets into the sanctuary of his car, he just has to let that out.
Yes.
I thought it was really pretty effective. And him standing, when you realise that he's standing outside the hospital room.
It's so creepy.
It's creepy. And then when you realise that he's no longer standing outside the hospital room, that's even creepier, because now we don't know what he's up to.
What is he up to?
I thought he did a great job here. And it was nice to see Roy forgiving racist Kelly, kinda, and...
Well, he already did forgive her when she
I don't
first
think
came.
he ever really blamed her, did he?
No. But this is the second time she's apologized to him.
But he admitted that, it could have been the worst moments of his life apart from Haley's
death,
passing,
yeah.
but it was still not really her fault, and that was kind of nice. And he was the one that talked her into staying, although, to be honest, maybe getting out of Dodge wouldn't be a bad idea. All right, there's another part to this storyline that we're going to talk about now that I'm calling Nathan's DNA is still a thing.
Yes.
I hope that doesn't give too much away.
Although
On
it's
Monday.
not technically Nathan's DNA that's the problem.
Correct. On Monday, at the Rovers, Kit's got the night off to look for a gym, and Ryan, who also has the night off, offers to show him his old gym. Daisy, who also has the night off, is pissed because she thought that she and Ryan might do something.
Yeah.
She decides
You
to make
snooze, you lose, Daisy.
Yeah, don't come to me with these badly formed half plans that you're going to get arsey about.
Right.
But she tries to make him feel guilty about it. Anyway, having a date with a man who is far too tall.
Yes.
Instead of hanging out with her, but it doesn't seem to work. That was just a little
funny.
little amuse-bouche.
Yeah.
on
It was
Monday.
it was funny them talking about his height.
Yeah, nobody should be that tall.
Nobody should be that tall.
He really is tall.
He's very tall.
On Wednesday, Kit and PC Tinker are at Paul's arguing about the situation with racist Kelly and Joel and whether Nathan was involved, while in the pub, Ryan and Daniel are listening to Kev be misogynistic and blame Dee Dee for all this.
Right. And Daniel, to his credit, kind of calls him out.
Which is pot calling the kettle black here.
Right, yes. Daniel doesn't know he's sexist, though.
Kev, I wonder how drunk Kev was, or how drunk Kev was supposed to be, because gloves were off.
It was lunchtime.
This is what women are like. Women are like this.
He's not supposed to be drunk at all. It's lunchtime. He's working with heavy mechanics.
Yeah. I can't remember everything that he said, but as he said it, I was thinking, oh, Helen's going to go fucking nuts about this.
I found it
here you have
hilarious.
Oh, you did?
I found it hilarious, especially since Daniel is the one who calls him out.
Says the Enlightenment Hour with Kevin Webster.
Yes. And that was funny.
Yes. Daniel wonders what Ryan's new best friend Kit reckons about all this. Meanwhile, Bethany has taken it upon herself to go to the police station to shout at Swain for a bit for letting Joel go, and reckons that they should be speaking to Ellie, that character whose name we can never remember. Swain tells Bethany to fuck off without telling her to fuck off, and then just tells her to fuck off.
Which was funny.
Bethany,
But there is... Bethany does, put a bug in Swain's ear, though, about something, and now I can't remember what it was.
I'm about to say exactly what that is.
Oh, okay.
On the way, Bethany reminds her about the break-in at Sarah's that happened when she told Joel about the credit card statement, and reckons he's far more dangerous than she's given him credit for. And at that point, Swain's like, oh yeah, that's a coincidence, isn't it?
Right, yeah.
Ryan sees Bethany in the community garden, and she's still sure when she talks to him that Nathan was involved in all this somehow, based on the testimonies of racist Kelly and Ellie. So she heads to the hospital to see racist Kelly, who explains that Nathan had nothing to do with her disappearance. She's
never seen him.
She doesn't even know who Nathan is. This is all down to Joel, who told her what to say. And Bethany is fucking furious about this.
Right, and also can't understand why racist Kelly would do this. It's almost as if she has not been groomed herself and not been terrified herself from a man who is grooming her into saying things that aren't true.
Right. She accuses racist Kelly of lying. There's too much evidence. Daniel appears as racist Kelly's white knight and drags Bethany away, kicking and screaming. So she goes home. Daniel goes to the pub to bring Sarah up to speed, where they overhear Brian wonder about the mystery of racist Kelly's DNA in Nathan's van. Sarah thinks there's far too much amateur sleuthing going on here.
Right. And tells Brian to fuck off.
Yep.
Rightly so.
I think in this moment, Sarah's almost convinced herself that she had nothing to do with any of this.
Right.
So if she were to take her little psychopath test, I wonder exactly how she would score in it, because it's eerie how able she is to distance herself from her involvement in all this.
Yeah. Seriously. And she would say it's just to protect her daughter. And yet.
Yeah. So on Friday, Swain, who doesn't work at the factory, turns up at the factory looking for Carla, isn't she?
No, she's not.
She's looking for Carla. And when she can't find Carla, she'll make do with a word from a reluctant Sarah in her leather skirt.
I knew you were going to bring that up.
Yeah. She asks Sarah if she wants to accompany her to the police station to answer a few questions, and Sarah would rather not stand up because it took her half an hour to sit down. In the interview room, they chat about Bethany and Nathan and his mates and how Nathan and Joel are in cahoots. Nathan is blaming Sarah for the DNA being planted on him, and Sarah sticks to her guns and asks how she could have got racist Kelly's hair in the first place. Oh, she's so good at lying about this. She reckons Joel and Nathan are dangerous. No wonder racist Kelly's sticking to her story. Back home, Sarah chats to Daniel and asks him to try and get Bethany to let this Nathan thing go, just to take the heat off of her. No one else is in the frame, and she reckons Swain will eat Kit alive if he derails the investigation. Speak of the devil, Kit and Swain are in her car, talking about Joel maybe wriggling himself off the hook. She believes racist Kelly's story, reckons Nathan is a distraction who's been set up, and Joel knows it. Kit thinks Swain has given Joel far too much credit and doesn't care about the DNA, he just wants to nab Joel. But later, Daniel rather going to Bethany, because of course he's not going to go to Bethany.
No, that would be too hard.
Because if he goes to Bethany, she'll leave him again.
Right.
Like she used to do every week.
Right, yes. And then he won't get the sex or the free babysitting.
Right, more to the point. So he approaches Kit instead and tells him to do the right thing. And I'm trying, does Daniel know anything about this?
Yes, remember, Daniel knows.
Daniel knows that Sarah was going to
Right.
plant something.
And then gave it to Kit.
He knows that?
Yes. Sarah explained all of this to Daniel back in the day.
See, I can't remember any of this.
Yeah. Daniel was brought into the circle of trust.
Oh, maybe I do remember that. But then Kit denies knowing anything about anything to do
Right.
with the DNA.
He's like, what are you talking about, bitch?
And if Daniel doesn't back down, maybe Sarah will end up as the main focus of this inquiry. Daniel worries that he's been threatened. Just a bit of friendly advice, says Kit.
Yes.
In the pub later, Daniel looks about to be spilling his guts about all of this to Daisy when Kit comes in, and Daniel quickly makes his excuses and leaves. Privately, Daisy goes to see Daniel all about this. She's got her suspicions about Kit and reckons that he isn't someone to cross, and wonders what exactly is going on between the two of them.
Yes. And she rightly points out, this guy is living in the same building as me now.
Yes.
He's 2 doors down. If there's something going on with this guy, I need to know about it, because I need to know if I'm safe.
Daisy thinks Daniel should take Kit's advice and just let it all go. So, he goes to see Sarah and tells her Kit said they had nothing to do with the DNA, and the more pushing that happens, the more Sarah becomes the prime suspect. They both take this as a threat, but the police have no idea who planted the evidence, and maybe they should take that as an olive branch.
Yeah.
And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Yes.
So this side of it, for me, is even more confusing than the first part of it.
And it's irritating because it pulls focus away from racist Kelly's abuse and makes it about Bethany instead. And that's kind of infuriating.
Mm-hmm.
Because when Bethany had her grooming storyline, it was Bethany's storyline.
Yeah.
There were no distractions of this nature.
No, not
making
really.
it about somebody else.
But this is kind of what I've been complaining about for a while, is that the whole Nathan aspect of this has been left kind of hanging on the tree
Right.
for weeks.
And now,
to the point where I'm really struggling to remember what any of it was about.
right.
And who knows what about whom at this point
Yeah.
is kind of confusing as well.
There's too many plates up in the air at the moment.
Exactly. So there should have been little reminders as we've been going through the last couple of months just to keep us on track with what's happening with this whole thing, because I presume that he's no longer on the hook for racist Kelly's murder. He was charged with that.
Yes.
Clearly that's not a thing anymore.
Right.
So all that's been dropped, surely.
Yeah.
But he's still seemingly on the hook for something to do with,
For the USBs.
and
And they still think that he is involved, that he
Somehow.
and Joel are in cahoots somehow, that it is like a grooming ring when it's really not. Remember when we thought it was a grooming ring? Mm-hmm. Remember when we thought Kit was part of the grooming ring?
I remember that you thought that.
Yeah. Well, I am part of we, yes.
Yeah.
And it's something we discussed. And you didn't say, no, that's ridiculous. So
I think I remember those conversations differently.
you forgot it was your birthday.
Well, this is true. All I know is I called out the Joel thing immediately.
You knew he was wrong, and I don't know if you knew exactly how wrong.
Is
at
there wrong?
first. Yes.
There we go. No further questions. Daniel's involvement in this was quite amusing as he was trying to be the hard man again.
Right.
And Kit's just, what the fuck are you doing?
He's like, dude, you're a foot shorter than I am.
And
Who are you
Daniel's
talking to?
Daniel's not short, I don't think.
He's shorter than Ryan.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe he is quite short then.
He's taller than David.
Sure. David the dog's taller than David. Oh, I don't mean that. It's hyperbole.
What is up with David's hair this week?
It's all very
It looks
foofy.
like he just got out of bed.
It always looks like that.
He's a hairstylist. And he can't
But
do his own hair.
That's what hairstylists look like, though.
Not my hairstylist.
That kind of avant-garde, kind of not following trends, setting them kind of thing.
You think that's a trend?
I think
Bedhead?
it possibly could be.
It's not.
Well, it's not here. And it's been
It's
almost-
been a while since you've set a hair trend.
It's been 10 years since, well, it's been more than that. God,
It's been more
what?
than 10 years since you've had hair.
It's been 15 years that my hair has been a number 2 all over, I think. And that all over does not include an awful lot on top. No. As
It's
the
like-
photographs prove.
Number 2 on side 1 and side 2.
And the back. Don't forget the back. Or maybe it's business at the front, party in the back.
No, that was you a long time ago in San Francisco.
I was tempted to grow this out. It gets too itchy. And I don't really suit hair. Anyway.
Well, not now.
Yeah, feel free to disagree with me on any of this, by the way. But yeah, Sarah's borderline psychosis here is kind of impressive as well.
Yeah, and again, it's just she's standing there in the law office badgering Dee Dee about this whole thing. Poor Dee Dee has just realized that her fiance is a monster and that racist Kelly nearly died because of him twice. And here's Sarah badgering her, insisting that she tell her that Nathan was involved. It's like, Sarah, chill out. You have a problem with Bethany getting hot under the collar and maybe stepping in it a little. What are you doing here? Leave Dee Dee alone. The only person this week to say poor Dee Dee was Paul.
That's right. And part of that was only because he was so glad that Kirk wasn't in his house anymore.
No, that happened after the
And-
Kirk thing. Because he says poor Dee Dee to Kit and to Craig. I don't know why Craig's there. Why is Craig hanging out in Paul's house? Why is Kirk hanging out in Paul's house?
This is all just a fever dream of Paul's, I think.
He wishes.
The thing is, I don't think anyone in Coronation Street has been sent to prison for perverting the course of justice. If you're going to go to prison in Coronation Street, it's for fraud, or it's for murder, or it's for rape, maybe. I don't think if you're Sarah, you're going to prison. And if you are, you're going to prison for 6 months, and it's probably suspended. So the way that she's fretting about this.
Yeah. Well, nobody wants to go to prison even for a day. Do you want to go to prison for a day?
I didn't do anything that has a minimum sentence. I'm fairly innocent in all this.
Right.
Sarah is guilty of doing this.
Right, yeah, but she still doesn't want to go to prison. Even prisoners don't want to be in prison.
If she pleaded guilty, she'd get off with it. I'm sure she'd get off with it, especially in that leather skirt.
It depends upon the judge.
All rise.
What is that supposed to be? Is that the creaky chair or is that a penis?
That's a creaking leather. Obviously.
Is that a penis rising as Sarah stands up in the leather skirt?
That's between me and my penis. Hey boy.
You're not a judge.
Not with that attitude. Or those qualifications.
No.
Sadly.
No.
That ship has sailed for me.
No, it hasn't. You could go back to school. You could go to law
I
school.
could be a judge.
Yeah, why not? Look at some of the yahoos we have in the Supreme Court. You could do a better job than them.
Hey. Don't make me hit my no politics button.
Hey, I haven't mentioned the DNC once.
Do you think that Swain is suspicious of Kit?
No, I don't think she's suspicious of Kit. Why would she be? She doesn't know.
I think maybe Kit has some form for this kind of thing.
I think she finds Kit annoying at times. But I don't think she suspects him in any of this. Because why would she?
Because she's that good.
Cops
Alright.
stick together, you know this.
That's all the racist Kelly Joel stuff. I'm
Yeah.
really enjoying it. Who would have thunk that this would happen essentially mostly on a Monday night?
Yeah.
This has got Friday written all over it.
I'm still disappointed that it's not Hope who broke this case.
And well, sure. And they didn't wait for the wedding.
No. Thank God.
When they announced the wedding being September, you're like, this is exactly when this is all going to hit the fan.
Yeah.
And it's hit the fan a good
Yeah.
few weeks ahead of schedule. This
Yeah.
is great.
They couldn't afford a wedding.
Possibly not. All right, let's move on to our next storyline, which is the battle for number one. Just on Monday, Helen. Just a few scenes on Monday with Tracy and Cassie. They've got number one to themselves and they cannot help but have a little bitching session at each other. Tracy thinks Cassie is a junkie. Cassie thinks Tracy is a sponger and wonders why she's back if Spain is so fucking bueno. Tracy is appalled that Cassie and Ken are suddenly so tight. Steve, meanwhile, is more interested if there is trouble in Spanish paradise, and she insists not, but over the course of the episode he pushes it, and she admits that Tommy O is obsessed with work. He's coaching this team, he's either playing football, coaching football, talking about football, and she hardly sees him. She's stuck in a villa on her own in the middle of nowhere. She's back to figure out what she's going to do. And when Cassie comes into the house, she's keen to know when Tracy will be fucking off. And Steve does not impart any of this information to her.
Nope.
And just plays dumb.
Yep.
Which he's very good at.
Yeah.
And that's as far as we get with that.
Yeah.
So, what we were kind of suspecting last week was yes. The Spanish adventure is not all that Tracy thought it was going to be, but she and Tommy are still
Together.
officially
Yeah.
together.
And it seems
she's maybe
like-
not quite 100% in it anymore.
Right. And Cassie notices that Tommy O has been trying to contact Tracy quite a bit.
Oh, yeah, she finds
Tracy's phone. And there's lots of messages from Tommy O.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Maybe she could invite Amy back to the villa for a visit or something, and then she won't be so lonely. Or take Ken with her. Please take Ken with her.
I know a few people that have moved to Spain and have got these villas out in the countryside.
Uh-huh.
And it does look like it could be, if you're there on your own,
Yeah.
it could be a very lonely existence.
I'd love it.
No doubt.
Stack of books, no neighbors, plenty of beverage,
That's
nice
what
weather.
it takes.
Nice weather. Hopefully a pool or something, or be by the ocean. No responsibilities. Kind of nice.
Yeah, Tracy has kind of landed on her feet here.
Yeah.
If she could only deal with her own company,
Right. Which, come on.
the demons.
Yes.
But
She has killed.
this is where I'm going with this, Helen. She's
and she
killed,
will kill again.
and we've said that she's going to kill again.
And it's going to be Rowan.
Yes! Yes, please. Let it be that. Because as we'll get to another storyline, in fact, in the next storyline, there's a bit of a development there that
Yes.
is surely going to cause Tracy some consternation
Yes.
when she learns about that. In fact, let's just start talking about that
Sure.
now, shall we? And reality coding bites. On Monday, Toya and Nick are enjoying an ice cream at the precinct. Sitting on a wee bench,
Yeah.
having an ice cream.
Yep.
She appreciates the company, as does he. So they agree to go and visit Lily later, who apparently has got a new football trick to show off. David is surprised to see them together,
Yeah.
and he gives the game away that he knows that they've got their hold of each other recently.
Yes. While having terrible hair.
Lily comes in with her shit football trick, which seems to be just kneeing a football a little bit. She claims that she was better at it earlier. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking, what is it that you're trying to do here? You're trying to do keepy uppies in a kitchen? Is that what you're trying to do?
Right. Well, she said come outside. So I'm imagining that she did it outside and then she was trying to do it inside as well. And it didn't work quite so
Because
well.
she's in a kitchen.
Right. Yes. But they couldn't show her doing it outside because apparently they haven't rebuilt the Platt's backyard
Since the
since
sinkhole.
the sinkhole.
Oh, remember the sinkhole. Remember the sinkhole?
Remember Leo?
Sinkhole Leo.
Yeah. Remember when Johnny died? Remember when there was a floating gun?
chili con carne without rice?
All America.
Remember
Remember the floating gun?
the scaffolding outside of the Rovers? That became a character.
We could do this all night.
The scaffolding outside the Rovers had a 12-month contract.
It wasn't outside the Rovers. It was outside Tracy.
Oh, number one.
Yeah,
Number
Tracy and Steve's house.
Beg your pardon.
Ken's house.
So where did I get to? Oh, Lily's shit.
Remember how mad Aggie was about that scaffolding? That's why she left.
Right.
It was the scaffolding that drove her away.
I remember that happened to me once. Sure.
Sure.
So Lily's got a shit football trick, and Toya quickly leaves when she learns that David knows that she knows Nick in that way.
In the biblical sense. Right. So Toya doesn't even get to see the ball trick. She's already left.
Not that one.
You think Nick has a ball trick? Honestly.
I think that's how he gets the ladies. As
I thought it was all the crying.
he gets a cup and balls and goes left or right. Ha ha ha. They're not in this one. They're in this one. But it's a ruse. It's all a con. If anyone approaches you, if a man approaches you in the street and asks to do the cup and balls trick, just pretend that you don't speak English.
Call
and
the
just-
police.
and just move on. So back home, Nick apologises but says that he needed to speak to someone, and David was the only one that he knows. All he can think about is Toya. And she goes, oh. And she gives him a smooch. And then a proper smooch. So much for staying away from each other.
Right.
On Wednesday, Toya and Nick have slept together again, but all they did was cuddle thanks to ovarian surgery that the show has had the decency to remember.
Yes.
I'm a little delicate down there.
Yeah, just a wee bit.
I'm not cycling anytime soon. Toya thinks that this can't happen again, and to prove it, winches the face off Nick. So we're at our appointment with our surgeon. He's a nice guy.
He is a nice guy.
And he's got good news because he's a nice guy.
He kind of reminds me of my gastroenterologist.
So, it's good news. She'll need regular checkups, but she's out of the woods as far as the cancer's concerned for now. Toya cries while Nick is oddly dry-eyed about it. At home, Toya doesn't know what to do now she doesn't have cancer to worry about. Nick suggests getting blutered on the Vino Collapso. He brings back the third best champagne the bistro has to offer. Toya thanks him for everything. She couldn't have gone through this without him, and he says he wouldn't want to be anywhere else. So, they seem to be taking advantage of the fact that Leanne's not there by being kind of coupley together.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about that.
Which feels kind of like pretend relationship. As if once Leanne comes back, everything goes back to normal, and all this emotional building that they've been doing together just is discarded.
Yeah.
On Friday, Rowan turns up at the bistro in his cloppy shoes, and after some pass-ag chat with Nick, has a word with Amy, trying to get cash out of her for the resource centre. Meanwhile, Nick and Toya are looking forward to some time together, and they're going to go away for the afternoon. And you do think, well, who's looking after the bistro?
Yeah.
But after they get back, Amy is furious because she's the one that's looking after the bistro. And after Rowan's friendly advice for her, she decides just to quit on the spot. Later, she meets up with Tracy in the pub just as Rowan comes in, and Tracy and Rowan are introduced, and Tracy seems to kind of like the look of this Rowan chap, but she has to nip off for a shite. So Rowan and Amy are alone, and Rowan is glad that she quit. She's worth so much more. She could do so much more in life.
Like giving all her money to him.
She's got so much talent, Helen.
So much.
And so much talent that it would make sense for her to pick up Leanne's investment.
That's why she has a radio show that she never does anymore.
Right.
And also is supposed to be running the flower shop as well.
Mm-hmm. She's doing...
And is also in school.
She's doing so well. She's such a strong woman, Helen. I don't know if you appreciate that.
So very strong.
She arranges an upload session to help her see that this is the way to go. Give me all your money. And that's as far as we get with that. He's just out and out con man now. It's almost like the facade has entirely dropped.
I still don't fucking care. Well, I mean, I care. I care more about the whole Nick and Toya thing, honestly. You know, since they've made the decision not to go like full cult here, full wacky racist cult, and drag Amy into it, of all people, who you'd think would be a little bit more cautious and more cynical than she's been.
Old cynical Amy? Yeah, cynical Amy's quite cynical.
Yeah. And yet she's not here. And she's being hoodwinked by this idiot.
I'm not sure that the message of this is all that great, that women who have been through trauma are susceptible to this kind of shenanigans.
And I mean, technically that statistically is true, but it's statistically true of men as well. Falling for cults after dealing with trauma. But it's typically people who have gone through trauma and don't have any other outlets for it, who do not have supporting families and, you know, and a community around them.
And a strong friend network, which Amy definitely has.
Yeah, and Leanne has as well. She's got Toya and Nick.
Both of whom don't hate her that much.
And Sam.
Sam's probably our number one fan, actually.
And Simon.
Sam's probably our number one fan, actually.
Aye.
Yeah, of all the characters, I mean, it should be Summer, but it's not Summer.
Right.
It's yet another thing that Summer has fallen for.
Right. Yeah, but it can't be because Summer has to deal with Paul dying now.
Yeah.
So she can't be in two places at once.
Amy isn't a great surrogate in this story, but, it gives us more Amy, and I'm all for that. But I do think, as we kind of hinted at, or not really hinted, you just came out and said it, once Tracy becomes aware of all this,
Yeah.
there is nobody, especially after all the trauma,
Yeah.
Tracy's letting no man get away with this shite against her daughter. And if she is still in Weatherfield at the time that this all comes out, which I imagine is probably sooner rather than later now, she's going to go fucking batshit crazy at Rowan. And rightfully so.
And he will die.
And Tracy doesn't play by normal people's rules.
No. She'll glue herself to his face or something. And then whack him over the head with a candlestick.
Her hand glued to his face?
Right. One hand will be glued to the face while the other is wielding a candlestick, which she'll bash his skull in
A
with.
candlestick.
Yeah.
In good Cluedo fashion.
Yes. Or just Clue.
Or Cluedo.
Or Clue.
I think I'm going to have to insist on Cluedo.
Clue.
I'd quite like to see Tracy super glued to Rowan's face. I wonder if AI can draw that for me.
Probably.
Hey, Chat GPT. I know it's not Chat that does it. I know that.
It's the GPT.
Our penultimate storyline tonight then is Hugo Beth, because what I'm doing there is a pun on Hugo Boss.
Yeah.
It doesn't really work,
Hey,
but I'm sticking with it.
you know what? You know what makes it not work? You explaining it.
But I think me explaining it kind of adds a meta angle to the whole thing.
It did the first time you did it, which was 3 weeks ago.
But now the repetitive nature of doing that becomes its own joke.
It's not funny.
Well, that's for you to decide.
And I did. It's not funny.
On Wednesday, Kirk is prepping Beth and Nina's roles for an upcoming interview by asking her general knowledge questions about space. Was that funny? Was that funny?
It was only funny.
Was that funnier than me explaining Hugo Beth every week for 3 weeks?
Yes, because Roy started
How dare
answering
you?
the questions. Roy starts answering, and that's funny.
How far away is the moon from Earth?
I can't remember. 26,000 million billion miles? Who knows?
240,000.
Yes, and elephants can run up to 25 miles per hour.
Beth doesn't think a cloth factory will ask her how far away the moon is, but guesses 50 miles.
Right, which is hilarious.
50 miles. From Alloa to St Andrews.
You know what that reminds me of?
I'm sure you're about to tell me.
It reminds me of trivia this week where we had a tiebreaker where we had to determine how many islands the 1,000 island region of upstate New York actually has. And we said 70.
And another team guessed 58.
And another team guessed 10,000.
And the actual answer was about 1,100.
Right.
So we were the closest. So we won.
70.
We were almost 1,100 out.
Yeah.
And we still won.
Because we were closer than 58 and 10,000. Can you imagine if there were 10,000 lakes in a region? There would be no land. Unless they were very small lakes.
It was islands. And I was surprised that there was as many as 1,000. But that was where Thousand Island dressing comes from.
Yes.
See, you learn something new every day.
Yes. You thought it was
And the Pacific.
California or something.
No, I thought it was the Pacific. Somewhere in the Pacific Ocean, there'd be 1,000 islands, and it was them that invented the dressing, but it was just another thing from New York, apparently.
Yes.
Fizz and Kirk are confused why Beth left the knicker factory in the first place. In the street, Kirk runs into Tinker and Kit, and he tells Craig to make up with Beth. He prefers it when everyone gets on. Tinker takes a leaf out of Kit's book. If he can forgive Bernie, maybe he can forgive Beth. Kit thinks his mum was bang out of order, though, and her actions threatened his career. In the pub, Beth fucked up the interview, and she's resigned to be a failure. Craig comes in And Kirk suggests she goes over to apologise to him, but rather than do that, Beth just goes home.
Right. She says, I'm even a failure as a mum.
On Friday...
And Peanut would disagree.
Yes. On Friday, poor Paul is stuck in the flat and his body with Kirk.
Why?
And Kirk's talking to him. Kirk shouldn't be allowed to talk to him.
Kirk shouldn't be allowed to talk to anyone. But why?
Paul's never been so desperate to see Billy in his life.
How do Paul and Kirk know each other?
From working in the factory.
Oh, that's right. Paul
Question
did.
asked. Question answered.
Paul did take care of boxes at the factory with Kirk for a while. And was quite good at it.
Sure.
Yeah. But still, he looks like he's now regretting flushing those pills down the sink.
A little bit. But later, Kirk meets up with Craig and Beth in the pub, and both are furious at Kirk for setting them up, even though he didn't, even though this whole meeting is just coincidental. Kirk makes a plea for Craig to accept Beth's apology. Beth says he's the beat of her heart, and that seems to melt Craig a little bit, and the two of them sit down. Craig insists, though, that Beth comes clean with Kirk, which she reluctantly does, and explains about the T-shirts, working in the factory, and all that sort of MacGuffin. Kirk is furious about this, reckons that he could have lost his job, and then realises this is the reason why Beth lost hers. She said it was for their wedding, she wanted something special. Kirk doesn't care. He hates being lied to, especially after the whole Marco thing.
Right.
And he storms off. Craig's sitting there going, oopsie.
Yeah, he is, which is hilarious.
Kirk goes back to the God flat and unloads on Paul, who pretends to be asleep. He's sick to the back fucking teeth with Beth.
Yes.
And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Yes. And then Kirk notices that Paul is asleep and is afraid that he is dead. So he goes and pokes him and he wakes up. And then blessedly Dee Dee shows up.
Yep. For no reason.
No, well, to be the person to watch Paul for a while. And also to tell Paul things that we don't get to hear that I'm sure we will hear later.
So I think this is the way that Beth's leaving the show, I guess. She and Kirk are going to split up. Don't you think?
Yeah, there's no reason to leave, though.
Oh, if Beth doesn't have a job, she doesn't have Kirk.
She's got Craigie.
Craig's not a number one fan either, and she's
No,
not
but
Craig's
he's forgiven
fan
her.
at this point. So
She can move in with Craig.
I must admit, I thought maybe Beth and Kirk would leave together.
Yeah, that
doesn't
was
seem-
wishful thinking on your
That
part.
doesn't seem to be happening, but I don't know. Beth, I think, has been underused.
Yeah.
She's kind of a horrid character, but
Yeah.
the show needs horrid characters.
Right.
There needs to be something to rub against the grain here, and I think
Right.
she does a decent job of that.
She
When
does a
she's-
decent job of it while also not being the worst,
Right.
you know, while not being necessarily the worst psychopath on the show,
Right. She can just be snarky and snide with people.
but also
it's
loves
never,
people.
But it's never really too much, I guess.
Right,
And
yeah.
she has the she's capable of love, which is always something, but
Yeah. And she hasn't
So
murdered
this-
anyone.
so this just feels like a bit of a damp way to go if this is it. If this is as complicated as it's going to get, I'm not sure it almost doesn't really qualify as a story. She's fallen out with Kirk again. Oh.
Well, about the T-shirt. And maybe that's why she's leaving the show. It's because the show can't be bothered to give her anything serious to do, anything decent to do.
Right. Yeah, maybe. Oh well, let's move on to our final storyline tonight.
Yes, please.
Alina popping back off. With her Alina popping back. She'd popped back. But now is she popping back off again?
I don't know. Let's ask Winona Ryder.
On Monday, Fizz and Ty are trying to wrangle the kids for the cinema trip that they were speaking about last week. Remember, Helen?
Yes, I do.
Alina and Doran arrive. Hope and Fizz quickly leave. Ruby stays to hang out with her wee brother. Ruby is
A delight.
just a delight with Doran.
Such a sweetie cat.
They have a great time at the park, but when they get home, Alina gets a nuisance phone call and reckons it's the human trafficking gang trying to put the shits up her. She goes off for a nervous shite, and Ruby reckons it's more likely to be Hope making the prank calls, and Ty's like, surely not, but then is like, So when Hope and Fizz get home, Tyrone wastes no time accusing Hope, which does not go down well, and he only apologises once he's been through a phone, and this goes down even worse.
Right.
Great parenting, says Hope. Yeah, good job, says Fizz. But Tyrone is too bothered about checking in on Alina.
Right.
He's got to realise how this looks,
Yeah.
hasn't he?
No. He's not the sharpest tool in the
He's
shed.
not. On Wednesday, Fizz has noticed that 250 quid is missing from their savings account. Ty says that he had to buy motor oil out of their savings for the garage, and he's waiting to be reimbursed from Kev. Hope is still pissed about Ty and his other family and takes the piss out of Alina and the bad men that she doesn't believe are a thing. At the garage, it turns out that the money was Adam's fee for the DNA test stuff. Well, I'm glad that Adam's choosing to bill somebody.
Right.
Kev refuses to play along by sending them 250 quid back and tells them to man up and tell Fizz the truth. Later, Ty enjoys playing with Doran at the precinct and is already dreading him and Alina leaving. Alina doesn't want to talk about it or to be harassed into staying. But back home, Tyrone decides to take Kev's advice and he tells Fizz about the 250 quid that was to get advice of where he stood from Adam and presumably that DNA test kit.
Right. And to prepare to take Alina to court to get her, to force her to stay in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, which Fizz is not 100% happy about.
No.
While he's at it, he admits that he would prefer for Alina and Doran to stay in Weatherfield, and Fizz, understandably, isn't taken by this idea and doesn't reckon Hope will think too much about either, and can easily see situations where he and Alina get back or make her think that they're back together again. Ty can't abandon his son the way that he was abandoned, and he needs Fizz's help to do that. He has to make this work. Meanwhile, we see some bald thugs spying on Alina at the rape hotel.
Yes.
And this is kind of what we were talking about last week about Ty being so motivated by family, really, and trying to make amends for the shit childhood that he had himself. It's like he's trying to pay back to his younger self and his younger self's, I guess, trauma through his own kids.
Right.
Which is kind of deep even for Ty.
But especially the wee boy, because he doesn't have a wee boy. He's got two girls, but he doesn't have a wee boy. He thought he had a wee boy once, but it was actually Kev's.
Yeah.
And that comes up this week.
It does. And Kev kind of clutches his collar a little bit
Yes, he does.
at this. And Ty's, I'm not wanting to drag that whole thing up because they were absolutely at loggerheads with each
Yes.
other. They had the garage and they could not be in the same room together. And then I think a car collapsed on Ty that he thought Kev did deliberately.
Right.
Oh, it was very nasty, the two of them
Yeah.
unable to talk to each other. I can't really remember how they resolved that. But anyway, they can talk about this now in the pub. And
It probably required a DNA test.
do you know, I can't remember. Maybe it did. On Friday, Evelyn gets up to find Fizz a bit emotional about the Tyrone situation. Tyrone and his open wallet as far as Alina's concerned, and his secrets as far as Alina's concerned. Everything's secret. There's secret meetings because of these traffickers and stuff that she's worried about, and he's doing things behind her back. She has a tough job believing the whole thug situation too. It's all just too much of a reminder for her. Later, Tyrone announces that he's spending more time with Doran today while Alina is giving her statement, and he finds no one in the house willing to help out with the babysitting while he's at work. So when Alina turns up with Doran, who's in a chatty mood, it seems that Alina is giving a victim impact statement today. I got confused about this. She's given the victim impact statement before the sentencing?
No, she is. It's not for the court. It's for the organization that has helped her. She is going to speak for that organization at an event and talk about what she has gone through.
Oh, okay. Because I thought
Because-
the trial was over. Because remember, she was going to go away back to Romania and then come back to give her victim impact statement.
Right. Yeah, so she's going. So
But
in
the
the
trial-
afternoon, she's supposed to be doing the victim impact statement. In the morning, she's going to this organization that has been assisting her and helping her to give a statement about what she has gone through.
But then later it seemed that the trial is still ongoing. Because we'll get to it. So anyway, she goes off to do that. Ty is left with a kid who he ends up taking to work in a playpen. And he just does not shut up. He's constantly...
It's adorable.
Of course it is. But in every scene, he's just chattering away to himself.
It's so cute.
And
Protect that child at all costs.
when he pointed out that the swing in the precinct was Lelo.
Yes. So cute.
It
And
was
then when he
Lelo.
holds up a donut and he says, "Donut!"
Now, I'm not wanting to say that he's any better than any other kid, but I'm just going to say the word soft play and just let that let that exist in the universe. Yeah. Evelyn isn't impressed by this and tells Tyrone that Alina is playing him. She thinks the sooner they all go back to Romania, the better, but Tyrone insists that he wants them all to have a future in Weatherfield. Evelyn reminds him of the effect this is having on Fizz and the girls because this
Well,
isn't
just hope.
because this isn't working for any of them.
Except for Ruby.
Back home, Tyrone tells Fizz that Doran needs him the most, but worries about Hope and how Ruby must feel pushed aside, what with her having a new head and everything. He wants to prove how much he loves all of them, except Alina. Meanwhile, at the Rape Hotel, the thug from Wednesday shows up at Alina's room and he barges his way in. She's being threatened to drop her evidence, and the guy's kind of screaming at her, and she's screaming back, but then Ronnie, who is there on a plumbing errand,
Yes, he's
because
supposed to be-
Ed's not there,
He's supposed to be fixing the plumbing in Alina's room, and he's walking towards there.
so he kicks the door in. The guy punches Ronnie. Ronnie barely feels it.
Yes.
He ducks from another punch
Yes!
and then throws the bad guy out and says, "Is that all you've got?" Ronnie
Oh my God.
fucking sorts things out Ronnie style.
Yes, and we love it. Oh. I am so wet right now.
Yeah, came in my pants a wee bit. Alina and Ronnie wait for the police, and in the meantime, she's missing her day in court. One thing's for sure, she says, the traffickers aren't going to give up. While this is going on, Tyrone is imagining his life with Doran in Weatherfield. When he gets a call from Alina about the attack, they need to get Doran back home. Once they get there, Alina arrives and is frightened out of her wits. Okay, bear with me here. She's going into hiding and wants Doran to stay with Ty and Fizz.
Yes.
And for them to look after him,
Only until the trial is over.
which it felt like it was.
And it's not.
Seems the police can't put her into protective custody for reasons she doesn't go into.
No.
Tyrone agrees, but only after Fizz has sighed in resignation. After Alina's gone, Fizz is worried that this puts them in the firing line, which is good because at least one person is thinking about this terrible plot. Hope is horrified to learn of the development. Ruby is chuffed. Evelyn isn't too impressed that Tyrone has been left holding the baby, literally. And that is how we end this week's episodes.
Yes.
Seems a bit optimistic to think that the wee boy couldn't possibly be used as a bargaining chip to get to Alina.
No, I think that's why she doesn't want him with her.
But if
because
he's-
these thugs supposedly don't know where Ty lives. Supposedly. And doesn't know that Ty is the daddy. Supposedly.
I don't know how difficult that would be to find out.
Yeah. Well, his name isn't on the birth certificate, let's not forget.
So, the thugs are in Weatherfield. Ty and his son are in Weatherfield. Alina is parts unknown.
Yes.
I'm not entirely convinced that this helps anything.
Well, of course it doesn't. Of course it doesn't. And of course this is going to end badly.
Oh, okay.
You forget what show you're watching.
I really don't. But it does feel like such a half-assed, not thought-out plan that when it happened, I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, this is what's happening. I think I was kind of chatted about that potentially they're going to pull a Natasha here. They got rid of Natasha so Sam can stay in the show.
Right, yeah.
They're going to get rid of Alina so Doran can stay in the show with Tyrone.
Yeah.
And they haven't killed Alina yet.
No.
They've just sent her off to be in hiding for however long this takes to fix. Which could be this never fully goes away, because just because you've put some of the gang behind bars, presumably there's still some at large who could be looking for revenge.
Right, or people who could be paid to look for the revenge.
Right. So I'm glad that Fizz has the common sense to think that this puts the whole family in danger having this wee boy there.
Right.
But nobody else is thinking like that, and certainly nobody's thinking like that enough to tell Alina to jog on. And Tyrone's never going to do this anyway, because he sees this as a great chance to get to know his son and play happy families with him.
And keep him.
Yeah. So if Alina can disappear and possibly come to no good or come to a sticky end, and there we go. Tyrone's suddenly got a son.
Yeah, exactly. It's but again, that's the show we're watching. We chose this. It's our own fault. You're right. It's a ridiculous plot. It makes no sense. Fizz is the only sensible person here, and I'm glad she's back to be sensible.
Mm-hmm. Evelyn's quite level-headed about this as well,
Yeah,
but more from a selfish point of view, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't like the fact that Fizz and Evelyn keep blaming Alina for everything. When Alina just wanted to be there for the trial, didn't want to have anything to do with Tyrone. She did not come back for Tyrone.
No. This is all Cassie's fault.
So to blame her for any of this is kind of cruel. And Ty rightly points out to Evelyn, because Evelyn makes a disparaging remark about broken families. And Ty's like, are you going to say that to Hope and Ruby's faces? And then Evelyn kind of realizes what she said and seems horrified. But that doesn't stop her from passing judgment on Alina, who, again, has been very brave in turning these traffickers in and testifying against them, and just wants to live her life and wanted nothing to do with Ty.
She wanted to come back and leave, and that would be the end of it.
Right. And they're like, oh, well, she's using him for money. She's only using him for money because he's the one who has forced her to stay.
Yes.
So I don't really like how the women in this storyline are looking at Alina when this is all Ty's fault, and they're blaming Alina.
It is. I can understand why. I don't know. I guess I can understand why Fizz has such a bee in her bonnet about Alina even being there and being in the house. Although when they accept that that Doran can stay, it's Fizz that Alina hugs.
Right.
Although Alina did have a little longing look at Ty, maybe wondering what could have been. We've never seen her tattoo to see whether that's been covered up by a picture of Fizz or not. That'd be hilarious if it was. And it was a better looking one.
Yes.
That would have been even cooler.
Yes.
I guess we need to talk about Ronnie.
I feel like we've already said everything we need to say about Ronnie.
It was
so hot.
It was so well done. Because normally when somebody punches someone, that's it. They're out and they banged their head and you shoved Mike.
Right.
And something dreadful like that happens.
That's never going to happen to Ronnie. He's too cool for that.
This guy tries to knock Ronnie out and it's just like it bounces off him. Is this all you've got?
Right.
Ronnie with his arms.
Yes.
Ronnie in his arms throwing this this hunk of meat out of Alina's room
Right.
as if he's nothing at all
Yeah.
was brilliantly done.
It was brilliantly
I
done.
loved it. I was surprised when Ronnie got hit because I thought Ronnie's going to sort this guy out.
Right.
So when he got hit, I was like, oh, that's a turn up for the books. And then when Ronnie didn't even
Yeah.
have to hit
When
him
he
back,
bounces right back.
oh, just handled so well.
Yes.
What a great scene.
Yes.
I loved it. I guess that was the week that was Coronation Street then.
Yes, it was.
Helen, tell me. Now remember, lots of big things have happened this week.
I know.
So with that in mind, big storyline,
Yes,
punctuation
yes, yes.
points.
Just ask the question.
What is your moment of the week?
Now, I would love to give it to Ronnie in his arms because that was my moment of the week. But it's got to be Dee Dee and Racist Kelly, isn't it? And Racist Kelly finally coming clean to Dee Dee about all of the things and the two of them putting everything together.
I think it has to be. I think there are weeks where Ronnie throwing that guy out could quite easily be moment of the month.
Yes. It's the
But-
moment of my month.
But sadly, too many important things and too many important storylines happened this week that were done rather well.
Yes.
Like Monday and Wednesday's episodes, I thought were really, really good. Friday
Yeah.
was fine, but Monday, Wednesday was sensational, I thought. But yeah, we will go with that then. Let's say an honourable mention to Ronnie in his arms, but our moment of the week is, I guess, Dee Dee figuring things out and
No. Dee Dee and Racist Kelly in the hospital putting everything together.
okay,
And Racist Kelly confessing about the necklace and everything.
fair enough. That is our
Moment of the week.
My moment of the week.
your boring moment of the week.
Kirk boring Paul to death.
Literally, Kirk.
Literally.
Kirk was the human embodiment of benzos.
I don't know why the show thinks that's funny. I don't know why they think it's funny.
They were definitely going for that as a joke, though, weren't they?
And I was, yeah. And if I was the actor playing Kirk, if I was
Andy Wyman.
Andy Wyman, I remembered the Wyman part and not the end. If I was Andy Wyman, I would be pushing for better things to do.
Like Hamlet.
Yes. I would like to see it.
A one-man Hamlet where Andy Wyman
Plays all of the characters. Yes. Give it to me.
Remember a couple of weeks ago we were wanting a
Depression
Kirk depression
storyline. Yeah.
storyline.
Maybe we'll still get it because of the whole Beth stuff. Maybe we'll finally get a deeper Kirk.
this level that he's operating on hasn't worked for the longest time.
No.
And I do feel sorry for Andy Wyman. I think he's given the show so many years. He deserves
The best years of his life.
He deserves-
And this is how you treat him.
He deserves something, but anyway, for the moment, what he deserves is our boring moment of the week, and that's what he's going to get.
Yes.
Boring moment of the week.
Now, Helen, as you know, every week I ask our followers on the Twitter what they thought about this week's episodes. Mm-hmm. For the past few weeks, it's been a very positive response, and I was expecting something equally positive this week because, as I've just said, I thought Monday and Wednesday were amongst the best it's been this year, and Friday was kind of okay. The voting was thus 15.9%, meh 34.1%, and yay an even 50%. So once again, it is a positive response to this week's offerings.
Yeah, I expected the yay to be higher than that, though.
It has been higher than that over
Yes.
recent weeks, and I
Yeah.
thought Monday, Wednesday was
I was
that
really,
good.
I'm really surprised by that result.
Yeah, me too. It's not quite as resounding as it has been of late, but still a positive response. Now, we do not let this influence our decisions or our scores.
No.
So, Helen, what score do you want to give this week's shows out of 10?
8.
Better than last week, you think?
Yes, much better than last week.
I think so too. I think I'm going to give it a 7.5 though.
What?
No, I'm giving it an 8.5. I thought it was great. I thought Monday was fucking-sational. It was moments like Monday that make me excited to do this, to talk about it, because I loved it so much on Monday. I thought it was just brilliant. And like I said, I thought Wednesday was pretty top notch also. So an 8.5 for me. Let's wrap this one up then. This episode was brought to you with thanks to our friends of the podcast: Daisy, French Helen, DT, Trisha, Wendy, Noel, Canadian Helen, Christy, Shandy, English Victoria, Aurora Yvonne, Heather Westerfield, Russell Whiting, Jackie B and Brittany Porter. Thank you ever so much, folks.
Thank you.
If you've ever shown off your wonderful arms and escorted a thug from a hotel room
You do that all the time.
right into tells about it, this is...
Oh, yeah.
That's
Don't Panic.
Oh, that does work, by the way. Right into
Right.
tells about it.
Yeah,
We're
there you
the
go.
talk of the street at gmail.com, and we're at Corrie Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. You can shout me and Helen a coffee or become a friend of the podcast by heading to ko-fi.com, that's ko-fi.com/the talk of the street, or patreon.com/the talk of the street. Check out voggle.co.uk for links to our merch store, YouTube channel, and blog. And if you're so inclined, please leave a rating and a review on the iTunes or your podcast provider of choice. And be sure to check out our pop culture sister podcast, The List of Lists.
Oh, my God.
Thanks for making it to the end of another...
Deer Hunter.
Thanks for making it to the end of another episode.
I love
And
that movie.
we will be back next week with more
I Talk of the Street.
Talk of the Street.
Bye.
Cheerio.